Are you ready? I don't know if I am. So welcome to Communication S.O.S. I wanted you to meet my grandparents today because when I think of communication, they taught me a lot. They were married for close to 60 years. But I also think of their son, my Uncle Dewey, who in 1943 was about to turn 18 and knew his next birthday card would be from Uncle Sam, drafting him into the Army. But he didn't want to sleep in the Army foxholes. He actually wanted to be in the Navy. But at 17, he needed to have parental consent. So he and my grandfather cooked up this plan to go enlist him, but not tell my grandmother. So they had to have been smart enough to know that the car ride home was going to be the easy part because bringing her into the loop as to what they'd done was going to be their biggest challenge. And how can I tell you this story? Well, I can tell you. She lived to be almost 100 years old, and 70 years later, she was still saying, as if it were yesterday, in all of those years of marriage, we never had a harsh word. The only problem we had was that they signed up Dewey to go into the Navy, and they didn't talk to me about it. But the good news is he did return home, a war hero from World War II, having fought in the South Pacific. That's him and the mandolin that he made for me. And his memoirs are in the Navy Museum. But she didn't forget. But I'm not just airing family laundry here. I wanted to give you a good idea of how poor communication choices can have such an adverse impact on some of our most important relationships. And so, the other good news is, if you want to be better at communication, with some education and some effort on your part, you can actually avoid the kind of disaster that my grandmother recalled for almost 70 years. And you all know as well as I do, hire any consultant, talk to any manager, talk to any crew member, and communication comes up very quickly as being one of the biggest roadblocks to efficiencies, collaboration, employee satisfaction, and a whole host of other things. And that was no different for us at Salin Bank, and so we decided to do an organizational immersion and learn why it was easy to communicate with some and not so much with others. So everybody spent the whole day over 2 weeks really drilling into that. And what did we learn? Well, we learned that most people don't communicate the same way that we do. We learned that communication is something we choose and can improve upon, which surprised some of us, but it challenged all of us. So to tell you the 4 communication styles that we really talk about, keeping with the military theme, we'll be using 4 branches of the service to introduce those communication styles. So we're going to start with the Marines, because they are our dominant communication styles. They are determined to complete their mission. They are confident in chaos. They are courageous in battle, and they never quit, and they will get the results they're after. No questions asked. But then we have our influential communication styles, and we're depicting them with our Air Force today. They fly at a higher altitude, they see the bigger picture, they are the people pleasers, they put service before self, and they actually have to control their impulses to maintain accountability. The U.S. Army is our supportive communication style because they see their sense of duty as completing their missions as a team. They see themselves as being stronger together than as individuals. They are a great example of service and loyalty to each other. And then we have our conscientious communication style, which is the Navy. They're informed, accurate, guardians of the most important resources, and they deter conflict and aggression through their supreme knowledge. So what did we learn? We learned that our personal communication style can be adjusted to others that are less like our own. We also learned that all 4 styles are critical to achieving our highest potential. It's helping us because we now have a common language around communication, but even more importantly, we have developed an awareness that we can pause to think about how another style might best receive our intended message before we communicate. But are we perfect? No. But are we better? Absolutely, every day. And we hear stories, and I hear stories from our crew members about the communities we serve at home and at work, of communication patterns that are getting better. But it's a lifelong journey. It's not overnight, but it's well worth your time especially if you think you work with someone that has my grandmother's emotional memory, but might not be as forgiving as she was. So with that, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate the opportunity.